Just welcome back to our Sammy Lee.
2.5 years ago, I think he was our first guest.
You're joking.
He phones me up, he says, get yourself down to Leeds tomorrow. And I said, well, yeah, that's great, but I'm due to start jury service the very next day.
Do you think Amarin's really made an issue for himself now that he's dropped Anana, or how's it going to play out?
It is a big call, and maybe he may live to regret that.
Where does Mo Salah rank in Liverpool's greatest ever players now, and where could he finish in 2 years? Where do you keep Marcelo Bielsa's jacket, and how did that exchange come about?
Where did this one come from?
Well, you don't even know this, do you?
No.
And you were there.
Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us for another episode of No Tippy Tappy Football. How are you, Sam?
I'm very good, Nat, after watching a weekend of great sport, and the greatest weekend of all was obviously the golf.
Did you watch it? Did you stay up?
And like sat there, I think there's lots and lots of people sat there and watched it, and of course what he achieved is, but it's just a great shame it was Justin Rose that he beat. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Justin was there all from the start, and Rory came from behind, and to go to the last round and Justin Rose to get himself out there with 10 birdies at a golf course like that, I feel really sad for him that he ended up being the runner-up. But obviously, you know, there couldn't be any better than those two chasing for it, and Rory clinching the big one, which he's been waiting for many years now.
The scenes when he won it, I watched the videos.
And I think we've got to listen to this, because we've done this, and I've done this for many years. He puts it down to his psychologist. He's had a new psychologist that has changed his thinking, obviously, like you mean, and that was a great advocate for, if you're going to be successful, how are you going to be successful? So if you're great from a mental point of view, and your brain is working efficiently to its maximum, you win big tournaments. Or I've said this before, you play in the Premier League because it takes your ability to its maximum, because your brain is good enough to do it, and your mental state. So that was fantastic watching, like you mean, a great week, great weekend, and today, obviously, looking forward to who I've got sat next to me, like you mean, and
I can't believe 2.5 years ago, I think he was our first guest.
You're joking.
Yeah.
Has it gone that quick?
And you survived.
And we did.
Just welcome back to our Sammy Lee. So,
Pleasure.
Sammy, great to have you back as always,
That's
pal.
great. And to go on what you're saying about the weekend, I've never played golf in my life, but I love watching it. And to watch that, I actually did watch it, and I thought it was outstanding spectacle for everyone to see. And I enjoyed the fact that it was two Brits, going at it, Rose and McIlroy. And I was really pleased for McIlroy, because you mentioned psychology, full well, mental health and mental fitness and mental well-being is huge, and I think if you've got a strong mind, strong character, you can overcome everything. But if you're tired mentally, then physically you're tired as well, as we know, to the game that we've been involved with for so many years.
Did you see the video of his daughter making the putt?
Yeah, I saw that one. Was that the one with the big...
Yeah.
Tap it and run all the way down?
It was an extraordinary putt, Sammy. So they'd let the day before the competition started, they'd let them go around with their kids. The videos are amazing. I mean, she's got that in her blood, hasn't she?
Yeah.
Well, it's lovely to see you again.
Pleasure to be here, Nat. Thank you.
I can't believe it's been 2.5 years. When you were our very first guest 2.5 years ago, did you imagine that we would last for 2.5 years, Sammy?
I didn't think it'd last for 2.5 weeks, knowing him, but I've got to be honest. No, I think...
I thought the content were better than that.
I think with the greatest respect now, when you got someone like him who fronts up the show, I think, it has longevity in it, without a shadow of a doubt, because he has quality people with him. He's throughout my career with him, I have to say to you, I've been introduced to so many people in a variety of roles within our game, and it's down to, I'm not being sycophantic or blowing smoke up his backside. It's down to his character and the friendships he's formed within the game, and the trust. And I think it's no surprise to me that it's had longevity, because, as I said before, it's quality.
And I think the fact that now, Sammy, we're on 28 guests that have been on the show and then gone on to get jobs.
Yeah.
Now, one of those guests was Billy Sharp. And I wanted to just ask you if you saw
Okay.
what happened to our Billy at the weekend. We're always a big supporter of our former guests.
Yeah.
Did you see it? No.
I didn't know.
So he's playing for Doncaster at the minute. He came on as a
Yeah,
substitute. And then he, I imagine it might be the first time ever this has happened. I don't know. I'd like to know that, Sammy. He got himself sent off before he'd even touched the ball.
No.
Yep. Apparently, I heard it on Talk
That'll be the
Sport.
Guinness Book of Records.
It must be. So there was no cameras, so nobody caught it. But somebody phoned into Talk Sport to say that they were at the game and they'd seen it, and he headbutted somebody.
He must have been frustrated. I mean, he never looked the type to us when he was with us.
I
did he?
know.
You know what I mean? And his experience, he looked cool, calm, and collected with us, didn't he?
He's passionate, though, isn't he?
He is very passionate.
We had him Billy was at Southampton when we first joined, and you could see the frustration when he wasn't getting a regular game because all he wanted to do was play football, you know, and he's passionate about it. And yeah, I know what happened, you know, and it was, I like Billy a lot. I like Billy an awful lot. Great guy. And I think, as I say, because what he's done, where he's done it, he loves Yorkshire, doesn't he? You know what I mean? To play for a Yorkshire club, and I can sense what went on. And it was just sad the fact that his first involvement is to get a red card, but listen, he'll learn from that.
I wonder if it is a record. We'll have to find out. So, Sammy, you'll know by now. We usually start the episode by asking what your links is with Sam, but we all know that.
We all know that.
And then we go on and we ask, what have you been up to lately? But I just want to skip that little bit and just ask you about jury duty.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, well, for the first time in my life, I was the right side of the fence, you know, on this one, you know. But it was quite strange because when Sam gets the opportunity to go to Leeds, and I've never ever taken it for granted, and that I've got to be honest with you, I hope he'd ask me, but never take it for granted. And you know, he may want to go in a different direction, which I fully understand, but thankfully he didn't. And I'll never forget because it was a bank holiday, and I was in our favourite restaurant, well, my favourite restaurant in Liverpool. Vincenzo's family-run Italian, fantastic, which we've been on many occasions.
Yeah.
And I'm there with a group of friends, and he phones me up. He says, get yourself down to Leeds tomorrow. The players are off tomorrow, but in Wednesday, we've got 4 games. And I said, well, that's great, but I'm due to start jury service the very next day. And that, you wouldn't believe, and I'd already put a letter in by my solicitor because I didn't particularly, I know it's our model duty to do it. I know that, but if you think of the profile in the city,
not in these circumstances for somebody like yourself, I don't think so. But and I think you're right saying we know many people that have got off jury duty with the same.
But they've had it deferred, Sam. So apparently you can never get off; you get deferred. And what I found out, to be honest, Natalie, is, and I'll come back to that in a minute. But I'd already put a letter in by my solicitor saying if I could get off, you know, I'd rather not do it because of my profile in the city.
Yeah.
Anyway, the judge sent me a reply back and basically said, well, we appreciate your thing, but your economic or your employment issue or situation has got nothing to do with your model duty to be a juror on jury service. And I felt as I was in the dock, you know, and from that moment on, I knew I was on the back foot. But I guess to call off Salmon, the very next day, I went in and once again I got my solicitor put in. As it goes into the court, and the way you know, there's a number of people who get assigned to different courts and then get put on the jury, on the actual jury. As soon as I go in, a young lad comes in and said, Mr. Lee, he said, I'm a Liverpool, so blah, blah, blah. He said, we all know your situation, but the judge has decreed that no one can be exempt from this case. So it goes to that, and then what happens is we goes into the courtroom, 16 of us, and then 12 get chosen, of which I'm number 6. And then the other 4 go out. We then get sworn in. We get sworn in, and they turn around and say, well, we'll start after lunch. All this time's taken in the morning, start after lunch. You know, so I'm number 6 in a jury of 12. Goes out, and as we go out all over, he's got the job, and he's going to... And this clerk, a lady who's fantastic, she pulls me into one office, and again, I'm thinking, you know, Mr. Lee, blah, blah, you know, we see you've got a chance, so we'll let you go. She pulls me in and she talks to me, she says, just to let you know that the judge has changed. I'm thinking, great. He said, under normal circumstances, maybe you could have. He said, but you've been sworn in. So you cannot.
You never told me this, by the way.
You cannot get off the case. And it's strange because you know, because it's down to the individual judge, nothing else. And I've heard people say to me, you can get it deferred. Many people in my position have had it deferred. you can't get it denied because you've got to do it at some point if chosen. But this judge, for whatever, and he changed it, but he decreed that nobody should be exempt from the case. So unfortunately, I never got the chance to go with Sam to the Leeds, and it was a bizarre situation because I had all people saying, "How can this happen? How can this happen?" And it's quite strange, again, Nat, because you go there and you fill in a form for loss of earnings. And I went to, then this is the next morning. So as I go, I said, "Well, how about loss of a job?" And she just sniggered at me. "You're the first that's ever happened to." I said, "And?" She said, "Well, go sit down and see in court." So that was, so that's how I couldn't go to join Sam at Leeds, yeah. So.
You should have rang me up on the top. We'd discussed how much we'd have paid you, and you could have put that down for loss of earnings.
There's only a limit anyway, Sam.
Is there?
Yeah.
Well,
and that,
my
wages wouldn't have been up there anyway, so don't worry. I'll be
Are you trying to say I don't pay you?
Yeah.
How gutted were you? Were you heartbroken?
Of course, yeah. Hey, and listen, we know it's a moral duty as a citizen, but I didn't really want to do it anyway. But to miss out on the opportunity, and as I said before, I never take it for granted. I repeat, he may want to go in a different direction. Plus, when he goes to work with Carl, and he did, and Robbie, wasn't it?
Oh, I mean, that story in itself. This is an astonishing story for me.
It really is.
You know what I mean? Absolutely. Which I think I said publicly when I did my press conference at Leeds. Like, when I think that. I only had 4 games, which is a massive task, obviously. But this is what you do. You have a think, and you sit down, and you go, "Who's out of work?" So Carl pops up in my mind. So Carl just rings me up and said, "What about this job?" And I'm like, "Yeah, here at Leeds." And he went, "What?" I said, "You're coming to Leeds. You get in a car tomorrow and drive up. We've got 4 games till the end of the season, see where we go." He goes, "Oh, all right then." So he drives up to Harrogate, like we meet up. I mean, we've got no time.
Yeah.
We got, we Wednesday and playing your lot on the weekend. You know what I mean? So then somebody puts Robbie Keane into my head, like you mean, and I go, "Well, I've known Robbie for a long time, but I got to know him really, really well at Soccer Aid when he was there nearly every year, like you mean." And I thought, massive Leeds fan, fan with the Leeds fans love him, like you mean. So I ring him up and said, "Where are you?" He goes, "Ireland." I said, "How quick can you get over here till just the end of the season?" He said, "Oh, leave it with me." So that was about 8 in the morning. He arrived at 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
Wow.
So that's how quick we moved to try and get in amongst it, like you mean. And I have to say their contribution was lifting up a team that was low on confidence and really didn't get a break, but that was our own fault. That was because of our own deficiencies, particularly against Newcastle. So, but what a club, and I wish them all the best. Great club, yeah.
Great club.
What a story, Sammy.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe it at the time, and I still can't believe it. It's really fitting to have you on today, obviously, because of the story from Newcastle this weekend.
Yeah.
So assistant manager, assistant coach, whatever they're called these days, Sam, moment in the sun this weekend for Jason Tindall. Feels like that man has been waiting for this moment, by the way, for his whole career. So he took charge of the Newcastle-Manchester United match because Eddie Howe is in hospital. We wish him all the best, of course.
Do we know what Eddie's in hospital with?
No, but apparently they put a statement out saying he's conscious and he's fine and he's with his family, but it doesn't say what it is.
Or is that 7-Up?
Yeah, well, we
think.
No idea. No idea.
I hope you're right.
Obviously, Jason Tindall stepping in and taking over and having a good win as well. In terms of the long-term relationship, so obviously Eddie Howe and Jason Tindall have had long-term relationships, so Eddie trusts him. How important is that, Sam, to have a trusting relationship with your number 2?
Yeah, I'm glad. Well, Eddie trusts him, and he trusts him because at the end it didn't end well between the pair of them or did it end well? I don't know. I mean, at Bournemouth, Eddie got sacked and he took over. Tindall didn't last very long, but he took over as manager, and then obviously it was a long time before Eddie came back. So, but obviously whatever had gone on before, whether there was any conflict about the fact. But I always think if like when I left, Sammy was always going to take over because that's what he wanted, the chance to. So there's never been any animosity for me with anybody wanting to leave the club to better themselves, like you mean. And I think that's very important. The only thing is you've got to have somebody that you can get who you can work with, and that's as a bigger challenge as finding your goal scoring centre forward for me, because that's the one you trust the most.
Yeah.
But they're going great, you know, and I'm really pleased because obviously he's British and he's right up there.
I just suddenly thought there when you said good cop, bad cop, Sammy. Who was the good cop and bad cop between you two?
It didn't matter. It would. If I was good, he could, you know, he could sniff something out or smell something, and he'd be, he can be, you know,
interchanging good and bad.
Yeah, he can jump in and.
There's only one Sherlock Holmes. He's the Sherlock Holmes. I'm the Dr. Watson. I've got to be honest. I'm the blooming Dr. Watson. No, I think as Sam says, I think it's a mix. You know, and there's certain times, and even certain players that, you know, that you got on better with than I did, and vice versa, you know. So we'd have this little bit of interaction, and as I said, I'd be the buffer for him, or he'd be the buffer for me, depending which the player was. But I think the biggest thing as we're saying that is the trust element. I think that's huge. And I must go back to what you're saying about Newcastle. And again, my delight for both of them, because I was at Wembley to see Newcastle turn Liverpool over, and as disappointed as what it was in us, I have to say to you, they were fantastic, and not only that, the supporters were as well.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, there's a great comparison between Liverpool supporters and Liverpool people and Newcastle people, and it was none more evident than on that day, because they were everywhere. You know, they were everywhere, and you were fan. The interaction, the mix was excellent. I don't think there was any sort of trouble whatsoever. And as disappointed as what it was, for them to win a trophy after so many years, I think it was 70 years or something like that. Yeah. I think, well, you know, fair play to them, you know. And going back to what Sam before, they had a fantastic game plan that day. I'm not saying Liverpool didn't, but they had a fantastic game plan that day, and they executed it impeccably well, to the point where you got the spoils, you got the cup, which they literally deserved on the day.
Yeah. Right, let's talk about the Man United, the game, specifically the Newcastle game, because obviously the headlines that came out straight away when the team news came out was that Onana was dropped, not in the squad at all. Obviously, he made two mistakes in the Lyon game and had that, what I think now was just a bizarre spat with Nemanja Matic on social media. So he was dropped, he wasn't in the squad, and Bayendia? Is that I think that might be the correct for the new goalkeeper?
Don't ask me, a dyslexic, to pronounce a name like that. By the way, I need to practice that.
So he's come into the team, and then he's made a mistake as well. I don't know what's going on in the goalkeeping at Manchester United at the minute, but do you think Amorim's really made an issue for himself now that he's dropped Onana, or how's it going to play out?
Well, I'm sure he'll tell you better than I, but I think if you drop your number one, then it's always going to be an issue, Sam, isn't it? You know, and when a goalkeeper makes a mistake, sadly, it normally ends up in the back of the net. Sometimes further up the pitch, a centre half, a midfielder, they make a mistake, you've got cover. But when the goalkeeper makes mistakes, invariably ends up in the back of the goal. And it's a big statement, as you say, dropping him, because as you say, he's a big character apparently. I don't know them at all, you know, but from what I can gather, Onana is a very big character, and as you say, to get dropped and not be in the squad at all, I think, you know, you start asking questions then. And as you so rightly say, if the replacement has made the mistakes that he did, then, you know, once again, there's going to be doubts. And the doubts, sadly, amongst the defence as well, Sam, right? When you've got doubts there, and your defenders are getting doubts, your whole team are. So it's a big call that he's made. And you know, I'm sure when Sam has him on, he'll be able to answer that. But I think it is a big call, and maybe he may live to regret that.
I mean, comments after the game as well, in terms of Manchester United's performance, Fernandes said that his teammates are better than they're showing. So if his teammates are better than they're showing, I don't even know what that says, like, about the teammates, him, the manager. What do you make of those comments? Yeah,
he has to say that. He's the captain. He has to say that, and has to defend them. We've all heard a manager talk himself out of a job.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. So, I mean, Gary O'Neill was the last one to talk himself out of a job because he blamed the players.
My concern is also there's far too much talk going on anyway. I think we're all watching what's going on the pitch, and long may that continue at Manchester United.
I completely agree, Sammy.
So only God, no, I don't want to turn anybody off your podcast, Sam, but but I'm being honest. But at the end of the day, I think
it's some abuse now.
Yeah, well, not for the first time. I just think there's too much talking going on. There really is, and it's getting out and whatever. For me, just perform on the pitch. Easier said than done. And I know as captain, he has to defend certain things. But for me, there's far too much coming out of that there, and you quite often see that when teams are struggling. And they came to Liverpool and they performed against Liverpool.
Yeah.
They really did. They put up a great show against them, which they always do, which then gives question marks against them. Why aren't they doing it on a regular basis? Why do they turn up against Liverpool, the biggest rivals? But that's for somebody else to discuss and answer. But for me, there's far too much talk getting out of the place. There really is. You need to keep a lot more in-house, sort out what's going on, whether it be the goalkeeper, whether it be the captain talking, whether it be the players are better than what they're showing. At the end of the day, people are only going to make judgments on what they see on the pitch and also in the results.
What you're looking for, Nat, is consistency.
Yeah.
Because consistency builds a successful team who manage to hold the nerve no matter who they're playing. And Manchester United have come reactive instead of proactive.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And we've experienced reactive at West Brom because we'd go to Chelsea and win 5-2 because we're playing Chelsea. Yeah, we'd draw against Man United. Then we go to Sheffield United away, who are like 2 points or 1 point off us. It's a real 6 point lose 2-1.
Midweek game, wasn't it?
And and don't even play anything like we played at Chelsea. And so you find out that you've got these players that build themselves, and you've got to try and reverse the mentality and sit them down and look them in the eye and say, it's more important to beat Sheffield United because it's unlikely, even though we did beat, it's unlikely it's going to happen. And we happened to have a fantastic day. I mean, how we played in that game was bizarre because it was about 30% better than anything we'd produced that season. So I'm saying, here's your standard.
Yeah.
Can you
can do it?
Can you maintain your standard? But they couldn't. But when you lose to the bottom 8, when you're in that position, you're going to get relegated because if you don't lose to the bottom 8 and you win one and draw one, or you win both, it's going to get you out of trouble. And then when you play the big boys, anything you take, there's the bonus. So in the end, losing against the small lads means we had to beat Chelsea, Liverpool, Arsenal to even try and stay in the race, to try and stay up, which is nearly impossible.
Yeah.
I think that's why this league is so one of the best in the world, if not the best, because it's the most competitive. And as you so rightly say, Sam, consistency is huge in any sport, in any business. And I think the mere fact that we can go and, I said, beat Chelsea as West Brom at the time, that couldn't happen in any other league. Very rarely happens. And
that's why it's so good. You're right,
Sam. That's why this league is so good for it. Such a spectacle, so competitive. You can decide what's the best or not. I think it's the best. Other people can decide that. But the mere fact that, I say, us as West Brom can go and beat Chelsea, or Leicester can win the league, whatever, in a fantastic style. I think that's the beauty of this Premier League of ours. I really do.
And I suppose you think the Premier League is particularly beautiful this year, Sammy, because your team is on the top of it.
For now. Yes,
Are you saying for now?
No, but it's another good one. Not for you, of course, being a Man City fan, but when they've won 4 in a row, it's a good thing for the Premier League, like I said. But I would like we'd like towards the end of the season. The big thing is this big game. Who's going to win the Premier League? We've also got it nearly creates as much of an audience. This big relegation battle. Yeah. Who's going to go down? Who's going to stay up? Because that game down here is the richest game.
Yeah.
You're going to play in, because you're going to lose, like, I don't know, probably 100 million of revenue.
Yeah. And we've not got either this year.
You know what I mean? And we haven't got either, like I said.
Yeah.
They're like 3 leagues within our league, aren't
they? They are.
You've got the bottom and the top, and those who are fighting to get into Europe, and whether it be the Conference, Europa League, or whatever, Champions League. So we have 3 leagues within our league, and that's why it's such a fascinating league. The reason I say for now, that is because people have been telling me for a long time that the league's done. us as coaches, you can never say that until it's mathematically
Mathematically,
impossible.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
I know that sounds negative and boring, and I've been booed at and yawned at by many people. But seriously, until it's mathematically impossible for people to catch us, we'll say for now, because that's the way we've been brought up.
Yeah, I completely get it. I've been in the position with City where everyone's saying you've already won it and you're going, no,
Yeah.
no, not yet. You must be really happy though. Apart from the fact they're on top of the league, the news that's just come out recently, of course, that Mo Salah signed a new contract.
Fantastic.
I guess you're hoping Virgil's next as well.
Yes, we are. I mean, I have to say to you, you need. I think Sam mentioned before, you need to keep all your best players. To win any competition, you need to keep all your best players. And I think obviously it's sad that one major of our players is left, and I'm sure we'll talk about that, Trent. But to get Mo in, and then hopefully Virgil will be the next. Again, until it's on the dotted line, I won't count my chickens. But yeah, I think because they've been massive for the football club, they really have. They've been massive in the resurgence of the football club, and I'm so pleased that. Sam will tell you, in any play, uncertainty is the devil for
Yeah.
you. You need to be certain, you need to be comfortable in what you're doing, and for it to come to the situation at the weekend where it's been done and dusted, now we can also say, fantastic. Now concentrate on
Yeah.
those who we haven't got.
I think you've got Arnie Slot to thank them for that,
Okay. Yeah.
because Arnie Slot slotted in,
No.
yeah, and made these players feel comfortable, so they want to stay.
Yeah.
They wouldn't be there now without him and without what he's delivered today, and that's going to be the Premier League at the end of the season. And I think that means that he's earned his reputation, he's earned his credibility, and he's done that with the players more than anything else, and that's why they want to stay. So they like what's going on and like what's happening. The other scenario is, from a financial point of view, they're your cheapest players
Yeah.
because no transfer fee. So they leave and you have to replace them. That you're talking maybe 200 million just for two. Best centre half in Europe and best centre forward in Europe, if you can find them and you can bring them to Liverpool, is going to cost you far more than what their new contracts are. So irrespective of whether it's 500 grand a week or not, it's cheap compared to how much the alternative would be, because it's 100 million and then 400 or 500 grand on top of that a week. So it'd be far more expensive, and that's why it's the two best signings Liverpool will make this year.
And that's why I've got a lot of praise and credit should be given to the recruitment department, because Sam will tell you, and he's been involved. We had that Dave Fallows, who was at Liverpool, he was at Bolton with us, and what a guy. And he's been part of Manchester City, then he was at Liverpool. And I think recruitment is key in any business, in any sport. And I think they've been fantastic in that. A lot of credit should be given to Jürgen as well, the previous guy. But I agree with Sam, the fact that this guy is nurturing him as well, because you see the evolution, like Gravenberch, Gakpo, fantastic to see. Now, they may have been their players anyway, second season on, I don't know, but certainly is the case now. They're blossoming now and flourishing. And I think a lot of credit to Arne, a lot of credit to Jürgen, but also to the recruitment department, because recruitment is huge.
In terms of the sort of strengths or weaknesses of Liverpool at the minute, then, in terms of the summer, where do you think they'll go in the market?
Well, they've got many strengths. Let's go on that first to begin with. But I think, as always, they always want to have options in each and every position. So I'd like to say they've got to strengthen in every position, to be honest with you. But, Liverpool like being like as they are. And don't forget, I was with Gerard Houllier one time, me, Phil Thompson, Gerard Houllier. And do you remember in Lumley Castle up in Durham?
Yeah.
And I forget, it was in the pre-season, and he sat us down. It was Bacon Hut, beautiful hotel, Lumley Castle.
We trained at the university then for
No, we actually played, if I'm not mistaken, it was Durham University, yeah. And we were there, and he sat us down this one, and it was a roasting that afternoon. Everyone was blacked out, and he had his formation, his what he liked us to play, whatever it was. And each and every position, he had two boxes, because he wanted two players for each position. Easier said than done, because of cost. But his theory was, I'd like to have cover in every position. So it's a roundabout way of me saying, when I say strength in every position, that may sound like we're weak in every position. I don't mean that at all.
Yeah.
But I think you like to have options in every position. To our fullbacks, obviously Trent's going to go. So we've got Conor Bradley, who we all think is going to be a fantastic replacement. But he'll need cover. You know, the left back, you know, the situation. Yesterday they played two left backs. You know, one, you know, you think,
Yeah.
well, why is that? You know, so there's obviously they have issues, and you like to go through the spine of the team. You like to make sure you've got, you know, fantastic, because I still think they need a goal scorer number 9.
Who's been the outstanding player, Sammy, that just has not been at Liverpool too long? Because we know Mo has been there such a
Well,
long time. Give us some of the
Gravenberch.
Gravenberch,
Sam Gravenberch.
yeah.
He's been fantastic.
Yeah.
Like a lot, they've had a little bit of a dip of late because maybe nerves are taken hold because they're so close, you know. But he's been fantastic. That's why I alluded to before the fact that may be in his natural evolution anyway, you know, because the second year into the team. But I look at the way he's done; he's been fantastic. And as you say, Arnie's given him that freedom, that option. And when you see him glide past people, receive the ball, it's great to see, you know. And he's been fantastic. You know, you talk about like Gakpo when he gets his moments. You know, at this moment in time, they're all a little bit nervous and a little bit of a dip, which is why I say, you know, fantastic result yesterday. But there's a number, you know, young Harvey Elliott when he's come on, he's been fantastic.
Yeah.
He's had a fantastic impact upon the team. We talk about Curtis Jones, and you can debate whether he's been good enough or whatever, but he's got in the England squad this season, you know. So I think there's been improvement throughout, all around. But again, Liverpool being Liverpool, let's get this title won, whenever that may be. Let's get this title won, and I'm sure then the bods behind, they'll be looking at everything. This is what we've got to do to improve, to strengthen, and I think it'll be in 3, 4, 5 different positions. We can all debate in any bar like this or whatever which position is priority, but I think the people that make the decisions, they'll be cold and calculated, working on the stats, working on what they say, and they say we need to strengthen these positions.
It'd be interesting seeing their recruitment.
Yeah.
Because they can't sit back.
Yeah.
No. If they sit back, they'll fail. Because they don't fall anywhere near like the lines of Man United, Man City or Chelsea in terms of the spending. But it's going to need to, you know, be a part of a big summer for Liverpool, in my opinion. Otherwise it will be difficult next year to do the same again.
You're right, Sam, but I don't think that you don't have to spend multi-million pounds. I think they've proven that in recent times. It's got to be the right ones. And I think that's been the joy of Liverpool's recruitment. It has been the right ones. A friend of mine, Lee, over there, we were talking about players who, previous to come to Liverpool, we weren't really fully aware of. You know, you had to become stars, you know, and hopefully to become title winners. You know, so it doesn't have to be multi-millions. The problem being, as you know, is that when you're at the top of the tree, you know, you do have to pay top dollar for them. But hopefully the recruitment has been such that already these signings are in the pipeline, and that when the time comes, they slot them in.
You mentioned Trent before. What is your thoughts on that Trent situation?
Very sad as a Liverpool fan. Very sad because you know he's done fantastic for Liverpool Football Club, and I think we spoke about it before. And when he's been there since 6, it's heartbreaking to see him leave the club. I can understand it. Well,
especially if it's Real Madrid.
Real Madrid, exactly. You know, I can understand it, but it's still disappointing because, you know, we love ours to stay with, and also he's at a football club which and at a Liverpool team which have got chances of going on to win other things. You know, so I understand in the past where players left, where teams weren't expected to win trophies, although every team is expected to win trophies at Liverpool. So it's harsh, you know, but I understand it. And I'm still disappointed because we're going to lose him. He's one of them, not because he's a Scouser, but the fact that he's the Liverpool player and he's been there since he was 6. And I hate to see him. And it's hard as a business side that they're going to get nothing for him. You know, so the business side is hard for that. You know, but listen, I suppose I can understand it. As heartbreaking as it is for me as a supporter to see him go, I can understand it, and I just hope the boy does. You know, I hope he succeeds wherever he goes, which they tell us it's Real Madrid, because I don't like to see anybody who leaves us fail. So I hope he goes with our blessing and does very, very well.
I wonder whether Arnie Slot wants to keep him.
What do you think?
Well, if I'm in that position, right, and I was sat in the boardroom, if they have a board meeting now, I'm not so sure they do, and they're going through me and saying what I think, and I would be pointing out how expensive it would be to replace it, like you mean, and what we really need to do to keep him and how important he is to me. And I'd say he's one of our most important players, and not only the fact that we need to keep him, and he's a Liverpool fan, he's been here since he's 6, but his contribution to the team is right up there, and our replacement would cost this much. So I think
Yeah.
it's your responsibility, and I'm not so sure you get that opportunity now, because you're, like I keep saying, you're only head coach.
Yeah.
My strong opinion is it's financially your responsibility to sign him on. It's my responsibility to tell you how important he is to us,
Yeah.
or to say, well, we can afford to let him go.
I think there's another question, Sam, as well.
You know what I
Yes.
mean?
Yeah, it's whether does Trent want to stay? You know, I think that we very rarely
Absolutely,
ask that,
yeah.
we very rarely
I
ask that
agree with
question.
that. Sorry.
You know, I understand the point Sam's coming from, you know, and I also understand the point as a head coach, you know, you must have an influence on the decision, but it may not be your ultimate decision. But quite very rarely do they ever ask the player, does he want to stay? Now, whether you'd get the truth out of any player saying that, I don't know.
Publicly, he's bound to say yes, isn't he?
Exactly,
Like,
exactly.
yeah.
You know, so, but I think don't forget they're having private discussions in boardrooms, as you mentioned, or with agents. So I think that'd be a more pertinent question for me. Like, does the player want to stay?
And
Very
Arnie
fascinating.
Slot's managed the questions very well.
He has, yeah.
You know what I mean? Because the questions have always been, when are they going to sign? When are they the top of the league and they're going well? And
Yeah.
it's all about Salah and
Yeah.
you know,
That Van Dijk
Van Dijk and are they going to sign? Are they not about like, oh, what a good performance?
Yeah.
What this was? Are they going to sign it? And it becomes nearly every week.
Yeah, and that's why I was disappointed, Sam. You know, again, we've spoke about the fact we can understand the boy going, but I was disappointed in the timing of that when it came out,
Yeah.
international week, you know, and now whether the fact that his injury, you know, suggests that he's not going to play again this season, and that's why it's come out. But I still think the timing for me was a bit disappointing, because again, you know, you're going for the trophy, and you don't want any sort of unsettlement or uncertainty. But again, I repeat, I can understand the boy and his representatives doing what they're doing if that's what they're going to do.
Right.
But those questions, when they become repeatedly, and I sit and watch them and go, you know, you want to grab them round the throat, and say, shut up, will you? You know, and just ask a proper question, will you? So it's cheap, unprofessional questioning in terms, and the press boys will be going on about, because they just want you to slip up with one or two words, and then the editor will create a big, oh, he's happy with him, or something like that. You know what I mean? And so concentrate on football, not all the other negative side of it, and concentrate on what Liverpool have achieved. So he's done a brilliant job, not just taking over from Jurgen Klopp, by the way. He looks fantastic on Trivago. Have you seen him? You know what I mean? Jurgen, he looks really well, but you know, not only has he filled those big shoes, but he's managed all this extra pressure of these three big players that might well be leaving in the last year of their contract, and getting Liverpool to play his way. And his way has been tactically a lot different to Jurgen, and it's been a bit more pragmatic. And I think that's why, you know, in the end, and of course, he's managed to take full advantage of other teams that were expected there, particularly Man City, for slipping up. So it's you know.
And you know yourself, Sam, as well, that constant question about the three, it wears the dressing room down as well, doesn't it? Because it's constantly on them. You've got another 18 or so players in the dressing room, and they're constantly airing these questions. And to Sam's point, a bit of lazy journalism, if you like. Just keep on asking and asking. It not only does it wear the manager down, but it wears the people in the dressing room down.
Yeah. Right, last Liverpool question before we move on. Where does Mo Salah rank in Liverpool's greatest ever players now, and where could he finish in 2 years?
Well, Liverpool have been very fortunate because they've had many world-class players.
We've had Sir Kenny on here.
Many world-class players, you know, and I have to say to you, but I think going back to what you're saying before, stats will tell you that he's up there with the best of them. His stats alone will tell you that. You know, you go through them all, your series of this world, you mentioned Kenny, you know, you don't talk about Roger Runs, we don't talk about Ian Callaghan's. So there's been a multitude of them. So, but his stats, Nat, will tell you that he's up there with them, which is why they've gone and paid them, or give him this fantastic contract, because on this point, on this specific player, the stats don't lie.
It's the positions today. Shows you how much the positions have changed in the last few years, about wide men not being wide men. They start wide, but they don't stay there, and that's why he scores so many goals, because he comes off the line an awful lot. So you know, that change, that's been changing constantly over the last probably 10 seasons,
Mhm.
I'd say, and it may be more. Like you mean, because we've done that an awful lot. So you're not a winger anymore. You're a wide man, goal scorer, and that's what he is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because I think he started as a centre forward or number 10, whatever you want to call it, and he's ended up that there based on systems today. So, you know, he's got a terrific record, like you mean, and he doesn't look like he's slowing up at the minute.
No, he really.
You know,
doesn't.
I mean, pace wise.
Yeah.
You know, when he gets going,
It's a different Mo Salah, by the
Yeah,
way. It's
yeah.
a different Mo Salah.
Yeah.
You know, again, as you say, he's adapted his style of play to, you know, to, as you say, you know, he's an inverted, you know, left side
Oh,
on the right
lovely
side
word, that
coming
one.
in, you know.
Yeah.
In unverted,
Yeah,
he's
yeah.
been keeping up with the
Yeah,
new,
yeah.
the
And
new,
he's one of
the
them,
new
you know.
jargon in
Yeah.
the Premier League.
I thought they'd use for this.
Yeah.
But it's amazing because I think it's a new Mo Salah and he's adapted his game, you know. And again, as I say, you know, his stats this season will rank up there with the best of them at any era in our football club.
45 goal involvements in 38 games.
Amazing.
Unbelievable. Oh no, in 38 game season. Okay, so
he's
we
gonna
could get
win-
more.
he's
We
gonna
could
win-
get more. Yeah.
He's going to win Player of the Year
Yeah. Oh, it's
in the press one, and he's going to
should.
win it.
Yeah.
You know,
Right. Champions League.
Player of the Year, probably.
Yeah, he'll
Anyway,
sweep loads of stuff.
right.
Yes. Right. It is a big week of Champions League football. It was a big week. It is a big week. Can we first of all just talk about Arsenal? Because
Oh, brilliant!
I don't think anybody in the world expected that result.
I mean, Declan Rice's 2 goals. To score one of them in the game's big enough.
Yeah.
To score 2 quite similar in terms of, you see how
I
far
couldn't believe my
you
eyes.
see how far he bent it.
Terrific.
I mean, just you know, just outstanding. I mean,
It just got to be one of
something that
their
was,
best ever
wasn't
performances.
expected, was it? Wasn't expected,
No,
but 3-0.
just mind blowing.
Yeah.
But it's only half time. But
Yeah.
without wanting to be too negative, like you mean, you go into the probably the hardest place to defend a 3-0. So I hope they do it.
And they will believe that they can overturn that.
Oh yeah, they
will
definitely
believe
will.
that.
Yeah.
Carlo will have them. Carlo
Yeah, yeah.
Ancelotti will have them believing that. They've got the quality in there to do so. But again, as Sam said, I'm just hoping that also because I think it was a fantastic performance. The goals, the free kicks were fantastic from a guy, who I think very, very humble guy, very mature guy for his age. And I think he's been a fantastic acquisition for Arsenal and for England also as well, national team. So I think, you know, it's not over, as Sam says, but, you know, hopefully we've got the wherewithal to see it through. I hope so anyway.
I really, really hope that they do.
I do.
Really,
Yeah.
really hope they do. I have been in the Bernabeu watching my team when 3 years ago, City had a 2-goal cushion with 3 minutes left and they lost the game.
Yeah.
So Real Madrid will definitely think that they can. Lee has asked, we always ask our viewers, listeners to write questions in. Lee has asked, Gary Neville says Arsenal have regressed as a club if they don't win the Champions League this year. What do you think?
I'd say they stayed about the same. I'd say they've like, tried to be where they want to be, but haven't quite made it. Like I mean, they haven't got a Mo Salah, have they? You know, if they like I talked about one
Yep.
player making so much. So if you put Mo Salah into Arsenal, and you put how many goals and how many assists was it?
40? 42, 40?
They'd be top.
45.
They'd be top of the league now.
Yeah.
But they haven't had a number 9
Simple
after
as
the
that.
Arsenal,
No.
Sam, after the end.
No.
Saka, who's been their Salah, if you like, who's been injured.
Yep.
And I think, and far be it for me to disagree with the great Gary, you know, far be it from, but I just tend to think, I think it's harsh that, to be honest with you, because a team who's still in the Champions League, a team who's still fighting to win the Premier League, as they are still at the moment in time, I think it's difficult to say that. I know he's saying if they don't do this, if they don't do that,
Yeah.
but I still think it's harsh. And I think I look at what Mikel Arteta is doing. I think he's improving the squad year in, year out. What they will say is they don't have an out-and-out number 9. They've had this false 9, whatever. Marino's come in and scored a couple of important goals for them without being a designated number 9. So I think they'll look at that in the summer if they haven't already done so.
I've shared the goals out quite good though,
yeah,
Sammy, haven't
yeah,
they, on
yeah,
occasion
yeah.
this year. So
And you want that from any football
yeah,
team,
well,
don't you?
yeah.
Definitely.
You know, and I just tend to think, I think it's a bit harsh to say that. And Gary, love you, mate, but I think it's a bit harsh for you to say that. And I'd rather, for me, I'm sure if you're a gunner or a gooner, whichever you want to call them, they'll be thinking that they're still up there fighting. So I'm not too. They'll question certain decisions. How they never, improved in the transfer window in January, maybe for number 9, which was obvious to everyone. As regards actual regression, I'm not too sure about that.
When you talk about regret, if I'm Mikel Arteta, I'm sat there thinking about the fact that we were 5 points clear with 4 games to go, 6 games, whatever it was, and they blew it.
Yeah, they did.
They handed the title to City. City didn't win it. Arsenal gave it to them because they were so far ahead in terms of points with only those few games to go. That's his biggest regret.
Yeah.
Because it's not everybody goes then, well, we'll get better, we'll sign more players, and then we'll win the league. It doesn't happen like that. When you get the opportunity to be that far ahead with so few games to go, you can't blow it because you don't know ever when it's going to come back again, like you mean, and that's a great shame for him. But if he gets to the Champions League final, is an achievement. Whether they win it or not would then determined on how they can handle the pressure.
Yeah.
But they've got to handle the pressure at the Bernabeu, and I think that's the hardest thing.
At first, yeah.
I never thought I'd say it, but I want Arsenal to win. Good luck
Likewise,
to
so do we,
Arsenal. Very good luck to them, and also good luck to Villa because obviously,
Yeah,
gosh,
PSG, they seem a team now, don't they?
how good did they look?
Yeah, but that's taken what? How long have they been? The Qataris been in charge 12 years. They've tried to build a Champions League winning side for all those years because they normally just win the league at a canter.
But they came to Liverpool, Sam, and they were the best team. Well, they were there in Paris anyway. I mean, they're unbelievable in Paris, which I've seen anyway. But when they came to Liverpool, they are the best team I've seen around field in a long time.
Really?
In all areas, all departments of the team, they were. And I think they're playing now in the image of Luis Enrique, which I'm pleased to see.
Yeah.
Seems to be a great guy. And they had pace, they had energy, they were fit, they had quality on the ball, they had quality without the ball, they had pressure without the ball. They were the best team I've seen around field in a very long time. Certainly the best PSG team I've seen in 10, 15 years. Because you've long been known as the Galactico, Sam, haven't you? With these so-called stars in there. But, now that for me, it's a team. It's a team and team effort. Players who come to the fore like Dembele, who's magnificent. The midfielders they had in there, the 2 guys. I have to say to you that they're a proper team.
Villa have an incredible atmosphere, obviously, at Villa Park. They're going to take them back to Villa Park. If they've got a chance, will the atmosphere help? Will the fans help?
Absolutely. I think the fans, in these games create another level of intimidation, if you like. It can be most disturbing for the opposition, particularly if the fans and the team starts well, because then you're in that position. I mean, Sammy's been in that position at that level. I've been in a position, with a smaller club going to Anfield and things like that, and going, oh, here they come. You know what I mean? And you're and you're shouting at your midfield and all that. Stop him! Give us a breather. The goalie catches it and throws it out straight away. You give him a bollocking. What are you doing? We're just defending here to try and overcome that burst of quality that the opposition have got and not concede a goal, so we can try and play our way into the game, which ultimately does happen.
Best of luck to Aston Villa as well. It's
Very
going
much
to be
so,
a
very much so.
really exciting week of Champions
Have
League.
you got any more
football.
questions?
Now I've got a few for the end.
Good.
Question and answer for you section at the end for you, Sammy.
Okay.
So some of these have been sent in by our listeners and our viewers as well. So somebody would like to know, and I again, this is one of those, Sam, I don't Google it, I don't check out the backstory, Sammy. I ask the questions that have been sent and then look in wonderment after at the answers. Where do you keep Marcelo Bielsa's jacket, and how did that exchange come about?
Well, I made have been given the opportunity.
Where did this one come from?
Well, you don't even know this, do you?
No.
And you were there. It's strange. I've got to be honest with you. I'll answer the first one first, right? Okay.
Yeah.
I was given that by Marco Bielsa, and a great friend of mine in the restaurant I've been talking to you about. He used to work, and he was a maitre d' in there. Massive Leeds supporter. Martin Alexander, I've gave him that jacket, right? And only because he's a massive Leeds fan. But how it came about, as you say, it was in COVID, and our last game of the season for West Brom, we got beat 3-1 by Leeds. If you
Yeah, we
remember.
did. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
But we'd been beaten 5-0 by them earlier on in the season. He came to the Hawthorns and battled us, and he got to know that I spoke Spanish. Shook hands with Sam, shook hands with me, spoke to me in Spanish about he liked what I did on the line. Anyway, it culminates in the last game of the season. We're at Elland Road, and he shakes hands again with Sam, comes to me, commiserations going down, all that, like what we did, what we were doing, what we were trying to do, but unfortunately it was too late. And he says to me, and this the truth is, Marco Bielsa said to me, I'd like to swap jackets. I'm stunned. I'm going, what? And I said, well, okay, only if I can have yours. Now, what happened was it's COVID, and the guy said to me, listen, let's do the tunnel, if you remember there, like an awning.
Yeah.
He said, let's do it in there to avoid people, So we went there, and he took his phone and whatever out of his jerkin, give it to me. I only had me papers, me notes in. I gave mine to him, thanked him, and on the way, and I immediately thought, wow. I went to our press officer at West. I said, listen, you're going to have to get on this, because people are going to look at that and think, we've just been relegated. Sammy Lee has gone to Marco Bielsa and asked him, I want to swap jackets. And nothing could be further from the truth. And maybe a lot of people won't believe when I say this. He actually asked to swap mine. But I said to the press guy, you need to get on it, because people are going to look at this and turn around and say, we've just been relegated and he's swapping jerkins. But that's the actual truth. That we had this, because he knows I spoke Spanish. We actually spoke in Spanish on the 2 occasions. And every time we formed a little bit of a bond. And that was it. He asked for my jacket, and I said, well, only if I can have yours.
Here's a story for you.
Okay.
He's at Everton. We're playing Everton at Crystal Palace. Ronald Koeman. And we're desperate for results. We've only just got there. And we lose last minute. 2-1. Was it 2-1?
Yeah.
So we got this tiny. Crystal Palace is like, it's great for the big boys coming, because it's murder, because the dressing rooms are like.
Yeah.
So my office is like that. So I'm sat there, and Ronald Koeman comes in, who now speaks perfect English like me, and Sammy comes in, and then all of a sudden they're speaking bloody Spanish, and I'm sat there like a dummy, going, "What's going on here?" Like,
We talking about him.
So I think, like,
Yeah.
one of the greatest regrets in my life is not. It's nearly impossible for me to learn another language. But I think, being a dyslexic, unless somebody out there knows how to do it. But it's brilliant to have another language.
I'm learning now. Did I tell you?
Oh, very good.
I've been taking lessons
Excellent.
since January.
Brilliant.
Okay, gents, just 3 questions left for you. So first of all, one on Spurs, because Ange's come out recently and said there is a leak at Spurs, which I find really fascinating. But I want to know from both of you, is this a common thing? Have you experienced it? Or is this like a wow moment?
Go on.
It seems to be common in teams that are struggling.
Okay.
I think it's sad, very sad, because obviously when you're struggling, the last thing you need is that kind of scenario where people are letting things out for whatever reason. I've said before, for me, whatever's going on in a football club should remain in-house, particularly with things of this nature, because what you invariably find is that it's always negative that gets leaked out. Very rarely is it positive that gets leaked out.
Yeah.
Which really, once again, puts a slant on the thing. So I'm disappointed. I'm disappointed for Ange as well, because, I don't like to see any manager have to defend that kind of thing, and it has happened in a number of clubs. And I'm disappointed, to be perfectly honest, yeah.
Did he say he's got what proof he'd got?
No.
Well, you need to know, don't you? You need to know. You suspect sometimes. You suspect that, something untoward's going on at every football club. somebody's whispering around some corner. I think that it's less of a problem than it's ever been before. In my day, if it were you as a player and the manager found them, you'd probably get transferred. With the managers I had, I certainly wouldn't get in the team for a while.
Yeah. Quick word on the Championship before we finish, because Leeds and Burnley are now 5 points clear of Sheffield United. And I imagine you are a big fan of both of them, Sam, because both of them have got the best defence records in the league. Burnley, in particular, have conceded 13 goals for the whole season, and Burnley do not play tippy-tappy football. And I imagine you're a big fan of it.
This is unusual with Scott, because obviously Scott was when I went to West Ham, we were a bit at loggerheads, like you mean, because I had him at Newcastle, but never saw him.
Right.
Because we sold him to West Ham because he didn't want to stay at Newcastle. So I'd got no choice before I'd even got into Newcastle. We'd sold him back to West Ham because he'd not settled, which was fine, you know. But when it came to the West Ham getting relegated and he wanted to stay in the Premier League, which I understandable, but David Sullivan was quite, I want me 6 million back, and Daniel Levy didn't want to pay the 6 million. So me and Harry would be to and throwing before Scott Parker went there, like you mean. So yeah, looks like he's looked at what has happened and he's lost his job, and he's been in the job and he's done well, and it looks like he's found a way the team should play to be successful. So that's great. I mean, but to have the best defensive record, and to achieve the best defensive record in the bottom 8 in the Premier League next year, will keep him up.
Yep, I was going to ask you, are they going to have a better chance of staying up? And I knew that'd be his answer.
Just how much money they spend again. They spent a lot of money.
Yeah.
Last time, didn't they? So hopefully there's a legacy of some players out there where they've got to spend again and spend wisely and get a chance to stay in the league.
Right, last question for you both that came in from one of our listeners. Does Sammy think that him and Sam will ever be at a club together again?
Well, we've been waiting for a while. Sammy doesn't need to answer that, but the right job ain't come up yet, has it? Apart from Leeds, and he was doing jury service, the little bugger.
If it does, I'd have to say to you, Nat, I'd be delighted if he considered me again, and that's not me being trite or whatever or glib, because I say I never take it for granted. But if he ever took the opportunity again, I'd love to be considered for it.
And now you've done jury duty, is that you done? Will you ever get called up again?
Well, I think you can be.
Oh God, Sammy!
Yeah, just not. Yeah, I know. Yeah, just. Yeah.
Have you ever been asked?
No.
No,
you?
No, I've never been asked. Ever.
Yeah, but you can be asked more than once. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, fingers crossed.
The protocol is strange, as
Yeah.
I said before. It really is strange, but hopefully that won't arise.
Yeah.
But hopefully the first thing will arise. They'll get an opportunity.
Thank you for coming back on.
Yeah, been a pleasure. Now,
thank you, mate. Great to see you.
Thank you.
Lovely.
Safe journey home.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sam, as always.
Thank you, Nat, as always. Thank
Enjoy
to our followers,
Yes,
our subscribers.
You.
Keep it going. We really appreciate you.
We do. Thank you so much. And we will be back next week for another episode of No Tippy Tappy Football.